Today, we're at the Madrona House, and we are with Chuckanut Builders, and this is Forrest. Forrest, introduce yourself.
I'm Forrest Chiavario.
And Forrest is one of the owners of Chuckanut Builders, and Forrest has been on this project from the very beginning. So Forrest, tell us a little bit about this house and how we got here and how we got this giant green wall in front of us.
Well, access to the site was really difficult from the beginning.
Okay.
So we stood on the road looking at this site, and it was one of those places that most people would say, this isn't buildable.
Okay.
You can't get there. Really, really steep hillside, but we went through all the geotesting to determine that there was proper bedrock in place.
Okay.
Able to lock in a foundation here. We just had to get to it. We have some fantastic excavators, operators. They were able to carve a trail with a very small excavator to get down here and start the work. They made it, and but in order to do any work on the site, excavators is one thing.
Yeah.
We had to get materials down here.
Sure.
We had to get form boards, we had to get concrete, we had to get lumber, we had to get rebar. Everything that came onto this site had to come from way up above, and we had to close the road and bring in a crane every single time to bring our materials in. It was pretty inefficient, but that's how we got out of the ground here to be able to build this house.
And not very cost effective.
Not super cost effective.
Yeah.
No, you could very likely build a home for what it cost us to get to a foundation and start building this home.
Right. So again, we're reinforcing the idea that hillside houses come with just an embodied cost just to build the site, just to build the area with which the site. And here we knew we had to have access because you can't just park your car in the middle of the roadway above.
Right.
So we need a retaining wall or some place to park our cars and to get into our driveway. And behind us, we literally have a bridge to get into the garage. So that bridge needed to sit on someplace, and hence this giant green wall.
Right.
And so this green wall, like, did you consider a concrete wall here, or was this always the consideration?
We did consider a concrete wall. This wall is a much more cost-effective solution.
Okay.
And a prettier solution.
Yeah. I mean, it is an enormous wall. I mean, we very rarely see walls like this in California, and you are still in a seismic area, and you also have a ton of water. So like you have a lot of things that you have to consider. Tell me a little bit about not only why this specific wall. So we know that concrete is a lot more expensive. Is this the next best choice, or was there more of just a structural and a cost impetus to doing this wall with the fact that you can plant it with plants and we are surrounded by forest land? Like, this is an extraordinary site. Tell me a little bit about why is it green, first of all, and then how you built this from kind of ground.
Well, the green comes from the hydro seeding.
Okay.
So that is actually it's hosed on. It comes with a substrate that holds the seed in it. And so it's grasses and different vegetation that are actually going to take hold and put roots into the structure that we've created here. And the roots assist in holding all the rest of that material.
Oh, so the plants actually form a structural function as well.
They do. We give it a foundation. That foundation is this visible wire system that actually extends about 14 feet horizontally back into the hillside.
Okay.
And then once we cover it in all the hydro seed and additional plantings, that root structure goes in and prevents any of that silt from working its way through and the small particles working its way through as we get a lot of rain.
So this is really using nature to have a structural function while also beautifying the environment.
It is.
So I love the idea of this, and I love how it's going to look. And honestly, it looks way better than a giant concrete wall already. But I don't understand how it's structurally holding this entire, because we got a big freeway next to us. How is it holding this whole hillside from falling down? Because we actually have a driveway above us. Like 18 feet above us, there's a driveway filled with hundreds of tons of rock. And so tell me what this metal cage is, and then there looks like there's a fabric mesh behind it. So tell me how that goes in, like what's the first level, and then how do you build it up?
Well, essentially the whole concept started because we needed to have a driveway. We needed to have access to the building. So there was a cliff face, and we had to be able to add enough fill to bring it up to an elevation where we could bring a car from the road above down into the home.
And that fill can't compact. Otherwise, your car will sink into the ground.
Correct.
Okay.
It also can't wash away. So essentially what this is, each one of these levels, each one of these steps in the wall has a fabric, it's a mesh fabric that extends horizontally back into the hillside. We created that hillside layer by layer by layer. So this is essentially a layer cake, and the frosting in between each layer is a mesh that's laid on top of the previous layer, and more fill is brought in, and then another layer of mesh, and then more fill, and so on and so forth. So this entire structure has all these layers of tendrils and anchors going into the hillside that holds it all in place. Like, this cannot fall over. Whereas even a retaining wall, a concrete retaining wall, would have to have a massive footing to be able to support that leverage and not tilt outwards.
Right.
This one is far better anchored. Like, the system is actually stronger.
So a concrete retaining wall functions by having something in the back or something in the front or piers that go down that keep it from anchoring. But really the only moment of support is at the very bottom.
Right.
Here we have all of these essentially attachments back that are, the ground itself is supporting those and tying to the front.
Right.
So instead of all the force being at the very bottom, you have force going all the way up to the top. So the very nature of the earth is holding this in place.
Yeah.
And this is really just to keep the individual layers from compacting and kind of blowing out the top.
Right.
So this net, this metal that we see is actually not the massive reinforcement. It's just keeping the front foot of the wall from falling over.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, it's creating that framework, that structure to allow the vegetation to take hold.
And is there anything on this site or any site that would keep this kind of wall from being more commonly used? Because it's cheaper, it's more easy to install, it uses a lot less embodied carbon, so a lot less concrete, no concrete. It uses natural materials. You can plant it, you can put lights on it to make it beautiful. Like, what are some of the limitations to using this like all over? Like, is this a fairly common thing that you guys do, or is this a fairly unique site with having to have this giant wall?
I think we'd have to have feedback from an engineer, structural engineer on that one. The load capacity, the vertical load capacity of this is different than the horizontal load. So as you're driving on this and as nature does its thing, it's just going to settle and lock in stronger and stronger, but you can't put a structure on top of this.
Got it.
So
So it's not compressive.
a structure would require a concrete wall.
Got it. Okay.
Right, because of the compressive strength.
So behind us, we have the house, and the house isn't built on this because it has different requirements.
Right.
So really the feedback is we need to have structural engineers help us design these elements, but that concrete is not the only solution. Honestly, I can't wait to see what this looks like when it's planted, because already it's gorgeous. And we talked earlier with the client, and there's going to be tons of plants and lights on this. It's really just going to be a showpiece. That's going to be awesome.
Yep.
If you're interested in learning more about building science or how the entire world doesn't have to be made out of concrete, hit subscribe because we show you how to build a better way.